Erev Tov Kulam. Tonight, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to look at the parasha and we're going to learn the shiur Le'uli Nishmat Boaz David Hai Ben Rachel. Okay? His neshama should have an aliyah. It should go Mechayel B'chayel B'Gan Eden. And I see that the children are definitely doing the stuff that will bring a nachat ruach and help him ascend higher and higher in Gan Eden. Let's start off the parasha from the first pasuk, and it says, "Ve'ele Toldot Yitzhak ben Avraham, Avraham holid et Yitzhak." So the parasha wants to come and tell us who are the children of Yitzhak, and the parasha says, "Ve'ele Toldot Yitzhak ben Avraham." These are the children of Yitzhak, the son of Avraham. Avraham holid et Yitzchak. Avraham was the one who gave birth to Yitzchak. You just told me he was Isaac, the son of Abraham. So why does I have to say again Avraham holid Yitzchak? So Rashi tells us, Al yedei shekatav hakatuv Yitzchak ben Avraham huskak lomar Avraham holid Yitzchak. Why? Why does it have to say Avraham holid Yitzchak? Lefi shahayu litzanei hador omrim. They said mi Avimelech et abera Sarah. You know how Sarah got pregnant? Sarah didn't get pregnant from Avraham. They wanted to say the scoffers of the generation. He got pregnant from Avimelech. Why? Sharei kama shanim shahata im Avraham. For all the years she was with Avraham, she never got pregnant. Right after she was with Avimelech, that whole scene over there, all of a sudden she's pregnant. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? Tzar kelaster panav shel Yitzchak domeh Avraham. He made Yitzchak's face an exact copy of Avraham. So now v'ha'idu hakol, everyone would have to say Avraham with Yitzchak. Who really gave birth to? Or who was really the father of Yitzchak? It had to be Avraham. That was like the paternity test. Okay, so this was a full paternity test. You knew who the father was by making Yitzchak look exactly like Avraham. Avraham holid Yitzchak. Okay, וזה שכתב כאן, יצחק בן אברהם היה, שעדות יש שאברהם הוליד יצחק. This was the proof that Avraham was the father of Yitzchak. Rabbi Mordechai Kamenetsky, he asks a question. He says, why do we have to go this far? Why do we have to go this far and say, oh, you want to prove to the scoffers of the generation that Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak? There's already a huge miracle here. How old was Sarah? How old was Sarah when she gave birth to Yitzchak? How old she was? 90 years old. That enough is proof that this is a miraculous event, that this is a miracle, this is a nes, this is not natural. So,
but it's still not so bad.
It's still not.
It could say that until now she didn't have
Pregnant.
She was
You ever met 90-year-old women that get pregnant?
Okay, but they can still say that.
Yeah. You're right. They can still say that. But if you think about it for a second, you would say, 1 second, how's a 90-year-old getting pregnant? It must be, the whole thing is a miracle. So, Rav Mordechai Kamenetsky shares a story. I think it's a famous story. And it's pretty much saying what Aaron is saying. Listen to this. The Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron, Rav Yecheskel Sarno, Zechatzedek L'Bracha, was in a taxi in Eretz Yisrael. And the taxi driver starts a conversation. The taxi driver says to the Rosh Yeshiva, he says to him, listen, I have a story to tell you. The taxi driver says, me and my friends, we went backpacking through the wilderness, and one night, as we were sleeping, all of a sudden our friend started to scream. We look up and we see there was a snake that wrapped itself around our friend and was squeezing him to death. And we try to throw things and do things, and the snake wouldn't move. The snake wasn't, it just continued to kill our friend. So in the last minute, remember they're all non-religious, my last minute, the friend, he said, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, as if on cue, all of a sudden the snake let go and let my friend live, and he lived. And Rabbi, you won't believe it. Right after that, my friend came back. He went straight to yeshiva. He was learning. Today's about Shuvah. He's in Kolel. This guy is amazing. So the Rosh Yeshiva said to the driver, to the monit driver, he said to the taxi driver, he said to him, and what about you? He says, no, the snake didn't twirl around me, it twirled around this guy. You see, people have a tendency to deflect things and messages that come their way. Right? That's that famous story, the guy is looking for a parking spot. He doesn't find one. He has to be in a certain meeting or whatever it is. And so he says, Hashem, please, if you help me, I'm going to do this and do that and do this and do that and do this and do that. And then he finds the parking spot and he says, God, don't worry, I found it. I'm good. Everything that I told you is out. Why? Because people don't want to understand the message. Said Mordechai Kamenetsky, he said, people have no problem believing in the miracle that Sarah had a baby at 90 years old. It's a beautiful piece of information. You put it in the newspapers, everybody likes it. But the scoffers of the generation had a problem with Avraham Avinu, not a problem with the fact that Sarah was 90. Why is there a problem with Avraham Avinu? Because if the miracle happened to Avraham Avinu, that means Avraham Avinu's message of the one God in this world is a correct message. And that they don't want to believe. That Sarah had a baby at 90, that's good. You put it in the Guinness World Record. That you make news and you put up signs and you tell everybody about, it's a good talk. But that Avraham Avinu was the father of Yitzchak, that was tough for them to believe. And that's why they were scoffing and making jokes about it. So therefore Hashem said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make Yitzchak exactly look like Avraham, because now they have no choice but to believe and witness and attest that Avraham, who is the forefather of all the nations of the world, who brought in that belief of the one God, his message is true and correct. Now, as we go through the psukim of the Torah, of this parasha, we have that Yitzchak Avinu, okay, let's start with this. How old was Yitzchak at the time of the Akedah? 37. When was Rivka Imenu born?
At that time.
Okay. How old is Yitzchak when he gets married?
40.
Okay, so how old? 40, she's 3. How old is Yitzchak when he has Yaakov and Esav? 60. So there was 20 years. Now, obviously, at one point, at 3 years old, she can't have a child. She talks about it. So it's 10 years. You wait till she's 13. Then another 10 years. No baby. So what does Yitzchak Avinu do? The pasuk says. Very good. He said daven. But what type of davening? Vayitar Yitzchak lamunai lenochach ishto. What does this mean? Vayitar. Okay, Yitzchak is the forefather of Mincha, Ken. But it says Vayitar, he entreated. What does this mean? Hirba v'hivtzir b'tfilah. That he continued to pray, and to pray. There was a great tzaddik who lived very recently in the city of Ofakim in Eretz Yisrael. We're actually on Shabbat, in the middle of learning one of his Sfarim, the Sefer Sha'arim B'Tfilah, is written by Ram Shimshon David Pincus, Zechat Tzedik L'Bracha. In his community, there was living a man who's married already 10, 15 years, no baby. This man is a religious man, prays every day. He went to different rabbis, to rebbes, mekubalim. He did all sorts of segulot. He read it frontwards, backwards. He got the tears. He got everything. He did all the segulot possible. No baby. You can imagine the shalom bayit. You can imagine the stress. The guy was downcast. He was despaired, depressed. And the Rav of Hakim, Rav Pinkus, comes over to him one day after Tefillah in the morning, and he tells him, I know you've been struggling, and I know you tried every segula, but I have one more segula for you to try. But I can't tell you the segula right now. Tonight, come to my house after midnight, and I'll show you the segula. This guy, his last hope, his last joy, he had no child. So he comes after midnight, he knocks on Rav Pinkus' door. He's waiting outside all this time, correct? He knocks on Rav Pinkus' door after midnight, and Rav Pinkus says, you ready for the segula? He says, yeah. He says, okay, come sit with me in the car. Was the segula in the car? Okay. He goes, he sits in the car. And they're driving, and they continue to drive east towards Beersheba, and further in the direction of Yeroham. 30 to 40 kilometers sped by, and Rav Shimshon not talking to him. And all of a sudden, he pulled over to the side of the road. There was a flat desert terrain, the middle of a desert. And he tells this young man, get out. Rabbi, where's the skula? You told me skula. Where is it? What do I have to do? He says, here is the segula. He says, what do you mean? There's nothing here. Says Rav Pinkus, this is the segula. Right here, in the middle of the desert, you're going to pray now to the Ribono Shel Olam. Daven to Hashem like you've never davened before. And I'll be back for you in a half hour. Rav Pinkus zooms away, leaves this guy in the middle of the desert. No, he says, I'm here. He starts davening. He's davening. Half hour passes by. Rav Pinkus comes back. Rav Pinkus looks at him. The guy's about to walk into the car. And Rav Pinkus said, you didn't daven. And zooms out. He leaves the guy there for another half hour. The guy, okay, he starts davening even harder. Rav Pinkus comes by a second time. This guy's like, Rabbi, I'm done. He says, no, you're not. Drives away. This man, daven, he never prayed before. His whole body was soaking, drenched. Tears coming out. Talking to Hashem. And the third time, as Rav Pinkus comes by, he looks at him and says, now you davened. Get inside. And takes him back home. As he drops off this young man, he says, next year, we'll be having a baby, B'ezrat Hashem. And so it was. He davened, he truly davened, and he got Hirba v'hiptzir b'tfilah. So here is the sefer that we're talking about from Rav Pinkus on Tefillah. And I want to, now here in this sefer, the Midrashim say there were 10 modes of Tefillah. There are different words for Tefillah. So we've been learning through them. But we're going to go into this lashon of itur, which is like a pitchfork, and we're not going to talk about that part today. But here he goes. He says as follows. Itur is one of the terms of tefillah. It's one of the lashonot of tefillah. Because it's not just asking Hashem again and again. It's actually a form of tefillah. This is a way of davening, a way of praying to Hashem is to pray again and again and again and again. It's not just you're praying again. That's the way of praying of itur. He says over here, you have a person who learns Torah, right? Everyone can come and learn Torah. But then you have somebody who's called a masmid. He has hasmada. He can really learn. He learns a long time, all the time. Says Rav Pincus, when it comes to tefillah, the Lashon Eitur tells us you have to become a masmid b'tefillah. The same way a masmid learns without end, you have to pray without end. What do we say? Minha, when we take out the Torah on Shabbat? What do we say? Vani tefilati. What did you say? Vani tefilati. You said, I am a prayer. That's David HaMelech's Lashon. I became a prayer. You pray again and again and again. As you become a learner, you become a prayer. By praying over and over and over again, you become Va'ani tefilati. I myself am a prayer. That's how much a person has to pray. He says further here, I'm skipping a few pages in the Sefer just for the getting some points out. He says, he talked about Itur as being like a pitchfork and removing stuff and turning things over. He says, listen what happens when you pray again and again. It's not just praying another tefillah, but rather it's like digging. You're digging to find water. You want to make a well, right? The first shovel you take, you're not going to get to the water. You have to go a little bit deeper and deeper. He says, every time you pray, you're going deeper and deeper and deeper until you hit it. And that's what it says in the Pasuk. And Hashem was entreated by his tefillah. Hashem, it came to Hashem. Hashem answered it. Because you have to keep and keep and keep at it. Here's another idea, Rabotai. The Midrashim tell us, we know Moshe Rabbeinu prayed how many times to get into Eretz Yisrael? 515. Now people think that he just prayed again and again. Let me get in. No. Each tefillah was different. That means each time you pray, it's a different prayer. It's true of every person. Even if the words of the Kavanah are the same, each tefillah is a new prayer every time you pray.
Some shock because you become a new person every time you pray.
Part of it, yeah. You have a new understanding, a new Havana. You are a new person now in the prayer. So each prayer is new. Says Rav Chaim Volozhin, there never was and never will be a single tefillah that's similar to the next one. The shaharit is not similar to your mincha. The mincha is not similar to every single tefillah that you pray is completely different. Rav Yerucham, Zecher Tzadik L'Bracha, Yerucham Levovitz, he brings the Gemara in Mesechah Berachot. Famous Gemara. Everybody knows Gemara because it's Daf Gimel. So everybody gets the Daf Gimel, right? So what does it say over there? We bring a pasuk. Kaveh el Hashem, hazak v'yametz libecha. Kaveh el Hashem. What does this mean? Kaveh is a lashon of hope. We hope to Hashem. Strengthen your heart and hope to Hashem. What does that mean? You pray to Hashem. And if you're not answered, what do? Strengthen yourself, v'kaveh el Hashem, and pray again. That is the way of prayer. You pray again, it didn't work, you strengthen yourself, and you pray again. Rabbeinu Yonah, when he sees this, he says, no. Kaveh el Hashem, when you pray to Hashem, Hazak v'emet zibecha, Hashem strengthens you, and now you can pray again. It's not that I prayed, it didn't work, and I strengthened myself. He says, you pray, Hashem makes you stronger, and now you pray again. So even though you didn't get, you pray for you didn't get, but the fact that you prayed, that itself makes you stronger. In fact, the Gemara tells us,
Only if you have hope.
yeah,
If you keep having hope, then you get stronger. But
100%.
if you give up,
But if you who you talking to? If you're talking to Hashem, then of course you have hope, right? If your mind is clear, the Gemara tells us there are 4 things that need hizuk. You need to strengthen them. What are the 4 things? Yeah?
I think one is Zaka.
Torah,
Tefillah.
good deeds, tefillah, and business. These four things, they always need to strengthen them. What does this mean? Here is an example. Someone wants to start a business. Right? You ever start a business. People who've started businesses know that doesn't always work out so nicely in the beginning. But if he just starts and says, that's it, I give up, he's never going to get anywhere. You know, Lahavdil, the Walt Disney, everybody knows of Disney today. Disney today is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You know, when Walt Disney first came up with his first films, nobody wanted to look at it. They all told him it was garbage. But he kept going and going and going, and today he is where he is. You heard of KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken? It's also a very big industry. You know that the guy who made it, Colonel Sanders, the guy tried 1,009 recipes till he got it right. He actually worked in a million different jobs before he got to this job. His father passed away when he was 6 years old. Everything in his life turned out wrong, but he kept going and going, and he said he's going to make chicken. And he became a millionaire at the end. And today his business is still running.
Thomas Edison.
What?
Thomas Edison.
Right, Thomas Edison. What's Thomas Edison? Thomas Edison, he wants to make a light bulb. And he, thousands and thousands of times, he messed up. And someone asked him, no? He said, so I learned 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb, and one way too. But he didn't stop. The idea here is, what? Like Trump, he gets shot, he loses, he gets shot again, right? And then he's back.
His businesses.
His businesses too, okay?
Everyone's talking about he had bankruptcies many times.
It's also very true, a lot of bankruptcies. But the idea is a person doesn't turn over and give up. You have to keep going. You have to keep going. You have to keep strengthening yourself. In fact, we learned it again from Yitzchak. Yitzchak, towards the end of the parasha, towards the middle of the parasha, Yitzchak is in Gerar, right? And he wants to dig the wells. And what happens? They come and they fill it back up. He comes and makes another well. They fill it up again. So does he give up and say, that's it, I'm not doing any more wells? No. He goes and makes another one, and he's successful. Why? Yitzchak was a person who doesn't give up. He did the tefillah. He prays again and again and again. Now, why doesn't Yitzchak give up? Why is that? And this is based on what you were saying before. You ever thought about this way? Let's think about it for 1 second. We say in the Selihot, Anenu ufahad Yitzchak. Now, what's the translation ufahad Yitzchak?
It's fear.
Fahad is fear. And what's the lashon of Yitzchak? What does that mean?
It's laughter.
So, laughter. Fear, laughter. How does that go? How do you put that together?
You see, at the same time, you laugh because you know who is your father.
Ah!
Who is your dad.
Says Aaron beautiful. The what? The fear, the pahad of Hashem. Meaning that I know everything comes from Hashem. Now I could be misahik on everything else. Everything else is a joke. My boss tells me something, this tells me something, that tells me something, this happened, that happened, that happened. That's all dupu, nothing. Everything comes from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. You have pahad of Hashem. Like they say, there's nothing to fear but fear itself, right? Who's the fear? The fear is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. You have the right fear. You don't need anything else. In fact, we have Yitzchak, he plants, right? And it says vayimtza b'shana vayimtza. First it says he planted, and then vayimtza, he found. Well, why is he finding things? If I plant something, I expect it to come. I don't say vayimtza, oh, look at this. I found here plants. What do you mean you found plants? You planted. So how you find it? What's the idea? Yitzhak says, me putting in the seeds, that's nothing. My hishtadut, what I do, is absolutely nothing. Whatever I actually get, it's a mitzvah. It's a find. It's a Kadosh Baruch Hu giving it to me. So it's always my imtzah. It's always I find it. In fact, people have a minhag to say this pasuk. They have this minhag to say this Rosh Hashanah at night. When you come home before the Seder Rosh Hashanah, you have to read all the different psukim. Why are you reading it there? You're saying, Hashem, this year I want to find mitzvot. I want to find good things. I want to find. It's not me. It's all for my Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'll just say another part is that we know Shlomo Melech tells us that tzaddik falls 7 times and he stands. Sometimes the falling itself helps you build back up. Similarly, like we said by the tefillah, each tefillah creates the next tefillah, a newer tefillah. The same thing, every experience a person has in life, that experience helps him become better and more successful. It says in Masech Chagigah in Daf Yud Aleph, "Ein bnei Adam omdin alehen elim ken nichshal bahen." You cannot stand on something unless you fell in something. That's when you really understand something. So I will tell you, we learn from Yitzhak Avinu, who was waiting for 20 years to have a baby, that what do? You pray and you pray and you hope and you pray and you pray again. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to answer. But that is part of the job that a person has to do. Okay. Now, it says in Pasuk, when it's talking about Yaakov and Esav, it says, Vahi Esav ish yodei tzayid ish sadeh veYaakov ish tam yoshev ohalim. Yaakov was a complete man. He's an ish tam. He's sitting in tents. Question number 1. Why is Yaakov sitting in tents? Yoshev ohalim. Why can't he sit in one ohel? Why is he jumping? He's in with this tent to that tent. Ohalim means many tents. Yaakov Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. He's sitting here, he's sitting there, he's sitting there. He has ants in his pants, he can't sit in one place.
He didn't live in the palace, he didn't attend.
But how many tents he's got?
A lot.
He's got a lot of tents. So Rabotai, I want to read to you this, Rabotai. There's a Gemara in Masechet Nida. The Gemara says, the men of Alexandria came to Yeshua ben Hananiah and they said to him, what should we do in order to become Talmidei Chachamim? You want to become Talmidei Chachamim? What should we do? How do we do it? So he said to them, don't do so much business, go sit and learn. They said, what are you talking about? Many people tried to sit and learn, and they didn't become Geonim. They didn't become geniuses. So he said to them, what should you do? You should daven for it. So the question is, why didn't he just say daven? So the answer is, it's both. In order to become chachamim, you have to do both, the Gemara says. You have to pray, and you have to learn.
Isn't one the question of the answer?
That what?
Asking to God, and the tshuva comes in learning.
The way we're saying it now is...
I heard that from Shimshon brother.
That what?
Also that story you just said.
Yeah.
He said it a little differently than you. But,
I read it.
Well, he said that he told me he heard from his brother that he touched his eyes, like your face isn't lighted up. He said it wasn't necessarily looking at bow. He's like, here, you're embarrassed to daven. You want to know what's in your eyes? Daven to Hashem. Don't be scared of other people what are going to say. Daven. That's what matters. No one's watching now.
So you got it. Okay.
Pour your heart out.
Beautiful.
That was the point Kenichi brought out. but from a different side, he also explained that other things. This as well. He said that when you daven,
Yeah.
it's about question. When you learn, you see the answers.
Uh-huh.
The learning is what brings in the tshuva.
I hear. So what I want to propose is that...
Please, I was just like,
No, it's beautiful. What it's saying here is, he says over here, Chadal is delivering a clear ruling. Without tefillah, we will not succeed in wisdom. And without learning, so meaning if you learn without tefillah, you're not going to be successful. If you're going to tefillah without learning, you're also not going to be successful. You need to have both. So what does it mean, Yaakov Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim? Very posh. Because Yoshev Ohal Tefillah, he went to pray, like you said, and then he went to learn. He didn't do just one or the other. You have to do both. Right? It's like the Chavetz Chaim's famous mashal, where the guy says to his friend, listen, I need to borrow money from you. Right? I mean, I want to start a bit, I want this. I said, borrow money. The guy says, no problem. Come to my house tonight, I'll have the money. The guy goes home, he prepares the money, he's waiting for his friend never shows up. Okay? The next day he sees his friend says, listen, Avner,
Yeah.
I need the money. Can I borrow from you?
No, I don't have money.
He says,
Oh, yeah.
yes, I'm waiting for you. He says, okay, I'm coming today. Again, he waiting all night, the guy never shows up. Sees him the third time, says, he says, listen, are you ever coming? He says, I'm coming.
So what do you ask
And he never shows up. This is the same thing. A person comes and says, Ata hanil lam da'at. You give everybody da'at. And give me chokhmah bina da'at. And then he doesn't learn. So he's asking for a loan to have wisdom, but he never shows up. So it's a two-step process. There's the step of praying, and there's a step of learning. Now, I saw another pshat this year of what it means, Yaakov Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. Now we spoke about this, I think 2 weeks ago on Shabbat morning, and it's based on the Meiri. The Meiri on Masechet Avot tells us, the Pirkei Avot tells us, don't judge your friend ad shetegia limkomo. Until you come to his place, don't judge him. Now most people understand what it means. You don't know this person's past experiences, where he's been, what he's done. So if you can't judge him until you walked a mile in his shoes. The Meiri doesn't see it that way. The Meiri says as follows. You know what it means? Don't judge a person until he comes home. Why? Because outside, people have masks. When they leave the house, they're very nice people. Tzadikim, they're Gidolim, they're great guys, they're Bali Hesed. They do everything. But when they come home, how do they act? How do they behave? Like they once asked the Rebbe, can you tell me about this Hasid? Does he have Yirat Shamayim, this and that? They say there's only two beings who know if this person has Yirat Shamayim. His wife and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nobody else knows about this guy. No one else knows. Come on, until you come to his place. You know, we said the story. We said the story. Famous story in Gemara, Masechet Shabbat. Hillel is in the shower. Erev Shabbat, minutes to go, and this guy's screaming down the street. Not Rabbi Hillel, not Rav Hillel. Hillel. He's in the middle of the shampoo, this and that. He comes out. Yes. The guy's asking him questions around head, eyes, this and that. He goes back into the shower. Again, the guy's screaming, Hillel. Comes out again. 3 times this happens. And then he gives up. And the question that we asked is, how did Hillel do that? Imagine you're the rabbi. Okay? Imagine you're the rabbi. Let's just say, okay, regular person. The guy's 20 minutes to the shower. 20 minutes to Shabbat. And the guy's coming. He's not asking halachot of Shabbat, bishul, this. Not asking anything. He's coming. He's asking why the eyes are like this, like that. I tell this guy, listen, keep your interesting questions to Moshe Shabbat. We'll talk then. You know, after if I'm in a good mood. Otherwise, I'll tell the guy, get out of here. You're crazy. What nonsense is this? Go Google it, right? And Hillel doesn't do any of this. Hillel's answering questions. And he says to him, great question you asked. There was a Rav Herman. He he always had a lot of guests at his house. That week he bought a new. It was gifted a new frock, a new Rosh Yeshiva's coat, right? And he had a guest, and he was giving out the cholent, and he gave out the cholent to one of his guests. The guest sees the cholent, and he starts screaming. He says, "What's the problem?" He said, "You didn't put any meat here. Where's my meat? What type of cholent is this?" The guest, a little bit deranged, takes the plate, throws it at the rabbi in his face, gets the rabbi all dirty, his new coat and everything gone. What does Rav Herman do? It's quiet. He goes out to the next room. What? Yes, I believe that's it. He goes into the side room. He cleans himself up, comes back with another plate of cholent, heaping with meat, and says, "I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong plate. Here's the right plate." How? How can this guy do it?
It's not Bukhari and that's
It's nothing to do with Bukhari. Rav Shach, Zecher Tzadik L'Bracha, was in a. He went to a shul. He didn't really daven in all the time. He was there for Shabbat. So he went to pray mincha. He sat down in a seat. All of a sudden, some man, not realizing it's Rav Shach, runs over and tells him, "Well, chutzpah, you have to sit in my seat. Get out of here. Get out of here right now." He starts kicking him out. Rav Shach, we don't see this, right? And Rav Shach quickly gets up and turns to this man and gives him a hug and says, "If I knew it was your seat, I would never have sit here. Please be mohel me. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. If it was, I knew it was yours. I would never." And the question is, in all these scenarios, and there's many more scenarios and stories, how did these people manage? If you think about it, how did they manage to keep cool, calm, and collected, and as if nothing happened, nothing fazed them? So it must be that what? They weren't wearing masks. When they go outside and they behave, there's no mask. They are actually that. That's what it says. Yaakov ishtam yoshev ohalim. Yaakov was an ishtam afilu in his house. Afilu in his house, he was a nice guy. Not just nice on the outside. He was nice all the time. Now, how can a person achieve that? How can me and you achieve that? How can we become calm, cool, and collected? So how do we make the midot stick? How do we change ourselves to become an ishtam yoshev ohalim, even in the house? So in the Etz HaHaim here, he wants to say the answer is the first 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes. What does that mean? He says over here, we all know interactions that happen with our family that usually lead to fights and screaming. We know how to push people's buttons, and we know how people push our buttons. So he says over here, the challenge is to think about these things that push us and learn how to deal with them for at least 5 minutes. If you can create a plan in your head of how to deal with something for 5 minutes, you'll remain cool and calm and collected a lot longer than 5 minutes. The issue is a lot of times is that we react right away. We react right away. Now, again, reacting right away, by the way, is something you need. But we have to know when we need to use it. For example, the scientists like to call this the fight or flight. Okay? Fight or flight. I'm going to fight this guy or I'm going to fly away from this person. Right? Here's your example. You're driving down the highway and you see someone swerving in, out, in, out, in, out. So what do? Either you're going to fight this guy or you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to go to the side. You have to make instant decisions. You're walking down the street. You see a bunch of hooligans down the block. you doing the right thing by turning around and maybe going the other way. You have to make fast decisions. The issue is that sometimes we use those fast decisions in places we're not supposed to. When we're home, there should be no fast decisions. Everything should take time. Everything should take time. Someone comes and asks you a question. Here's a beautiful thing that they teach you, that they taught me. They said, one of the pitfalls, or one of the things that rabbis shouldn't do, is answer questions immediately. It's always better to take time to answer a question. Number one, we learn that people present their questions with not the whole information. Okay? A lot of times they come, they ask a question, and they're missing important information. So the rabbi shouldn't just say the answer off the handle. Right away, he has to start asking questions about the question that was asked. What did you say? How did you say it? What happened? Where's really the question coming from? What did you do? How did you do it? When did it start? Because a lot of times people just come in with a smack in the middle question. If you give a smack in the middle answer, you didn't give nothing. It requires time to get to the right answer. For parents, when dealing with children, now again, there's sometimes you have to make quick decisions. You have to make a right turn, left turn, you have to do things quick. But when you're home and things are normal, and a kid asks for something and you know it's not good for them, perhaps saying no right away is not always the right answer.
I will think.
No. I will think is not good either. I'll tell you why. Because, I will think will become no. Because if I will think and you don't do anything about it, it becomes a no. So it's not helpful. But sometimes what's required is, let me think about it. And really come back to it. And say, listen, I thought about it like this, I thought about it like that. What are your thoughts on this? And you develop the ability to not react off the handle, not to just react to things. Those first 5 minutes are so crucial for a person to control his midot. Don't try to control your midot for a whole hour, just for 5 minutes. And B'ezrat Hashem, a person will have a lot of hatzlacha when he does that. I'll just say one quick story over here. Mordechai Schwab, he said he was learning by Baruch Ber. Baruch Ber had a daughter. She was an almanah. She was a widow. She was living with them. One day there was a commotion outside of the house. There were two non-Jews. They were having a bloody fight. Baruch Ber stopped what he was doing, and he ran outside looking for his grandson to bring him back inside. So his Talmidim were asking Baruch Ber, why did you run out so fast? Baruch said, I'll tell you why. Baruch Ber said, you know why? I didn't want my grandson to see that fight. Why? He said, just seeing that scene as a child, Baruch Ber says, he said he saw it as a child, he saw one's Goyim fight, and he said it had an effect for me on the rest of my life. Once seeing something, already affected me. What a child sees has a lasting impression on him for a lifetime. I'm going to say, okay, again, and a lasting impression on him for a lifetime. And so, the first 5 minutes, the first impression, all these things make a huge difference. So it's very important that we train our children the right way, give them the right impressions, and we control ourselves for 5 minutes. And we should be zocher to a lot more hatzlacha in everything that we do. Again, this shir was Leili Nishmat Boaz David Hai Ben Rahel Pinhaso. Neshama should have an aliyah. We want to say Kaddish and then Mishnayot, we want to do afterwards.